Welcome, CNG 125 to week number 5. Let's see, for this week, some news that you might see. I think in week 5, an email goes out to students asking them to check their grades, make sure, kind of like a check in. It's going to say like mid semester, but it's not really mid semester yet. It's like a third of the way through. Um, so make sure that you go in, look at your grade in D2L progress, and then grades, and that should show you your individual grade. Um, from there, you can kind of see if you have any questions on anything. Make sure to reach out to me. Um, as far as the labs in MindTap are going, I've been giving people benefit of the doubt, realizing that there could be issues with the labs, and that's kind of me trying to figure out what's going on once again with this shell as we work through the semester. This week we're talking about virtualization and cloud computing. Let's see if I can bring up this. So one, oh, why is it not doing that? Um, with cloud computing, there are AWS. There's Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google, and those are not just the only one. Those are the real major ones. Um, but with that, they allow you to basically take any sort of network. I shouldn't say any sort of network, any sort of systems, and apply it to an online environment. And here we go. So here's my AWS fired up. I don't remember what I had in here. I usually just really run it when I'm in classes. EC2, running instances. Yeah, I don't have anything running. Oh, I was messing around with an ARC server, a game server for the kids and myself. Um, Also a T12 micro. This was for a course, systems engineering course, but understanding the concepts of this, um, cloud engineering and virtualization is just a small part of the solutions that are available to us at this time. Virtual machines, if you took in CNG 120 and CNG 132, basically they're just pieces of software run on the host hardware. It makes making sure that host has enough resources to run those, and turning that NIC into a switch. So it's basically what I say, imaginary compute. Well, they're not really imaginary, but to people that are not um, in our field, they're just made up computers. They're just running on the desktop. Cloud computing, basically moving servers to the networks. There are tons of information out there. If you are looking, or if you have a project, if you have me for a server class, we do projects within cloud computing. I do try to get you guys to cloud compute, because understanding that as you leave a 2-year institution is very helpful. And even when you start to roll into a 4-year, you're going to mess with it just a little bit more, a lot more when you get into your 6 years. But to have that understanding of just exactly how cloud computing works, you're building networks again. And I wish I would have saved more information on here. Um, Networks. Do I even have a network on here? I don't believe I do. Those are just the pretty much like the switches that are in my networks. Um, no real way to show you guys what I have going on. That would be my public facing IP. Let me see if I can't get you an image of, and I do use a specific browser when messing with AWS and Azure. It seems that Firefox is probably the most simple to use. VPC and yeah, so here we go. Here's a good. So when we start to look at great, that's a lot of information. Here we go. When we start to look at networks within a cloud, hopefully it pops up. You're looking at, of course, your public network. That's going to be that public IP that you guys saw on my AWS. That's going to be outward looking, and here it is right here, public IP 13 and 54. That's going to be my outward facing IP that people when they put in what was my I forgot what that was. I had a website up that we're doing for class for security. But when people go to my page, that would be my HTML page, basically for user login, user sign up. From there, they would start to enter my VPC, virtual private cloud, and start to interact with the switch that you saw was in there, interact with the switch within my system, and that switch basically said, okay, if one server has too many requests, send it to the other server. Then they would interact with the next server in line, which would then finally interact with the SQL server on the back. And once again, having these in different spots, the SQL server was not even in the virtual private cloud. It was in the private subnet that only specific servers within my virtual private cloud could get to. When the public subnet did contain the website server, did contain access to the database that had users. That cloud, and once again, when we get into security, when even thinking about security, perhaps this could be set up just a little bit differently, but this is the way that I set up mine just for ease. Once again, usernames were just usernames and passwords, not all the, I guess usernames were just emails and passwords, not all their information. Really good way to look at items, virtual private cloud, private subnet, public subnet, gateways, virtual gateways, switches, electronic load balancing, ELC or ELB. A lot of different ways to look at it. Describe and explain virtualization technologies, describe cloud computing, models. One cool thing about when we start to get into cloud architecture, we can develop cloud architecture to deploy out, which is adding more physical hardware to add more virtual hardware, if that makes any sense. So building out would be like horizontally, where we're building more servers so users can interact with those servers, or building up, we're adding on to those hardware servers more, I guess, databases. That's all I can really think of is you'd add more databases, more database instances on those hardwares, because people are looking for ways to access your database in order. And I think about you'd expand out and up in times of Christmas, Thanksgiving, holidays, where demands are going to be greater. Let's see, we're coming up on, we just passed actually Valentine's, so perhaps Hallmark would have expanded out and up during a Valentine's Day because there's a lot more people looking for cards. Perhaps same with the chocolate company that was in business for Valentine. Secure network connection using encryption protocols. Configure remote access connection between devices. Secure shell, RDP, SSH. It is secure shell. TLS. There's a lot of different ways to connect to it, and even when you're in the device itself, let's see if I can do this. It's going to require me to launch it, but the connect to that is usually right at the top, and there's also ways to connect to it through a browser. You can manipulate it that way. So main ways, TLS, SSH, SSH with the browser key and the key pin. Oh, I lost my keys. I just upgraded my hard drive, so I don't have a lot of the old stuff on here. Oh, I guess I do. So basically with my keys, looking here, the keys are used are only on this computer. So this computer is the only computer that's able to actually log into those servers because it has these specific keys. Um, and that's the most secure method. Um, Other methods are creating groups, security groups, as we see here. Security groups basically say what they have access to. Here we can see my auto scaling group, who's allowed to, people allowed to be, who are in this group are allowed to launch the auto scaler. Once again, this is only scaling, actually adding a whole new machine. So it's scaling up another virtual machine and not out. And that's, I think, covers all of our stuff for this week. I'll look at the discussion. I haven't put anything in there yet. Maybe we'll have a discussion on diff like cloud virtualization, and maybe we'll do some just hand drawings this week so we can get some network topologies kind of thought out and applied to paper along with your discussion posts. Yeah, let's do that. And that'll be our start for this week.